Welcome to the RV Game Changer Show with Uncle Bernie. Brought to you by Campers Inn RV, the RVer's trusted resource. If you're interested in RVs as a consumer, service provider, or as a manufacturer of RVs, this show is for you. Here we talk to RV experts, RV manufacturers, lifestyle influencers, service providers, charitable organizations, and component providers with a sole purpose to make RVing more fun and exciting and easier for you and your family. Please subscribe to RV Game Changer with Uncle Bernie on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Of course, find us by searching at RV Game Changer on YouTube. Let's see what we can do to make your life better this week on RV Game Changer. Here on RV Game Changer, we like to cover all aspects of product research, lifestyle, accessories, and best practices. This topic falls under best practices. Why is it so important to protect your RV investment as well as the safety and well-being of your family? And how are some of the best ways to do so? Today, we have the privilege of spending a few moments with Shawn Moran, president of the RV F&I division at Brown & Brown Insurance Company. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to RV Game Changer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time to be here and get a chance to talk to the audience. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You know, it's really important stuff, and I don't think everyone always thinks of, the products that we're going to talk about. I don't think everyone always thinks about what can go wrong when you're out with your RV. So we're going to go over a lot of these things. And Shawn, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with Brown & Brown.
Sure. So as you heard, I'm the president of the RV F&I division today, but I started in this industry in a dealer group out of the state of New York back in 2001 and spent 9 years on the retail side working as a finance manager and then finance director and ultimately corporate GM in the RV and marine sector.
Oh, wow.
And somewhere at the end of '08, beginning of '09, I decided, man, I could probably train dealers and do a good job at this and maybe offer some of those products. So crazy enough, about the worst part of the economy, I decided it was a time to start an agency. And that agency, thank God for my family's best wishes, flourished. And in 2013, July of 2013, I sold that to Brown & Brown, and we started what is known as Dealer Services today. It's grown to become the largest training dealer development organization currently in the country in the RV and marine sector, and we're real proud of that. We're excited to help dealers every day and help them perpetuate the RV lifestyle.
Yeah, so it sounds like you took your knowledge and history with the RV and marine industries, and then you translated that into your own company. So God bless you. That's fantastic. That's the American way right there.
Amen. I agree.
Yep. So when it comes to RVs, Brown & Brown has several products to consider. What are some of these products?
So, I probably start with a very simple one, but we look at our tire and wheel protection, right?
Okay.
And the tire and wheel protection today, a lot of people don't think about it, but these tires are quite costly on these RVs, and also the rims. It's not just the tire. You got to worry about these alloy rims today, but our tire and wheel protection does a lot to help a dealer with if that tire were to blow and or they have some kind of, they call it a catastrophic failure. That's a big technical term today for some kind of failure, in that tire.
Wheel cracks, everything, yeah.
Amen. It just doesn't hold air. That's another form of an issue today. But our tire and wheel protection takes care of the consumer on their tire and their rim. And, goes for replacement value so that we buy them a new tire and or rim. And we've gone even a couple steps above this. My wife jokes with me. She says, a few years ago, she said, it would be nice if we covered the rim if they curb it. And she goes, I call that Starbucks coverage. I said, what do you mean, honey? And she said, well, I've gone through the drive-through a few times at Starbucks, and I've kind of done a little damage to the rims on the car. And I chuckled and I said, okay, I need Starbucks coverage. I got it. So we now cover the sidewalls for curb rashing. We covered in the boat world. If you went in the ramp wrong and it does damage to a rock you hit or whatever it might be, but we have that sidewall damage coverage. We have the alloy wheel damage coverage. We'll cosmetically fix that rim if something goes wrong and pay for it. And that's a big deal to these people that like how their RV looks, not just functionally if it's got tires, but they're more worried that they keep that appearance looking just like it did the day they went out. We're willing to help them with that.
You're maintaining the value, but more importantly, there's a lot of new RVers out there, right? And they might not have the experience to prevent hitting that curbs, so having a little backup plan is a great idea. And I know B&B has some other products that work for tires as well. And what is multi-seal and why is that an effective product?
So, I'm so glad you asked about that one. Multi-seal is a legacy product of Brown & Brown that is a mix of fancy way to say organic glycol. Some of us know that as Jergens hand cream almost, and a little bulletproof vest material. We put the two together, and the folks at Multi-Seal some years ago found out that when you put that in a tire, there's no glue in it, there's nothing to stick to the inside, but you put a little bit in there. If you put a big hole in the tire, it literally seals that. Like, we went into a repair shop and asked them to put a plug in the tire. And, the average RVer doesn't think about this, but there's been some videos out there of catastrophic failures that have resulted in RVs flipping or, horrible events. So our thought here, and we partnered with Multi-Seal, is we said, listen, if we can stop a majority of the blowouts that occur to an RVer, that means, number one, they're not going to be stuck on the side of the road. Number two, not asking their family to get out of the car and get over the guardrail, get away from the 18-wheelers buzzing you. And three, well, that means that they get to the camping trip safely and they get their family to having fun. And the last thing you want them doing is stuck on the side of the road and not making it to that camping trip. So by adding Multi-Seal to the tires, we found that over 90% of the time we stopped the catastrophic failures. That's probably the first and most important part. But number two, Brown & Brown stood behind it and said, listen, if the product fails and it still blows, or you hit a guardrail on the road, I can't stop that one, right? It's going to tear the tire in half.
Right.
Then we're still there to buy them a new tire and or rim if that goes bad. So that's where the protection came in, that, listen, we can't stop everything, but we sure want to try to prevent just about as much as we can and get them there safe. But ultimately, if it still fails, we're going to buy them the new tire and or rim and be there for them.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So you're saying if you have road debris, or even, if you kind of hit something that you could have prevented, but you accidentally hit it anyway, you're still covered with the Multi-Seal.
We sure are. And in the job of the Multi-Seal at that point, obviously, would be to try to seal a hole. But if it doesn't, and in any way, shape, or form, the product fails to perform, we're still going to make sure we stand behind it and get them a new tire and or rim, whatever occurs from that scenario with the tire and rim. We're going to make sure we take care of it for them.
That is absolutely fantastic. It just seemed, and it's this thing that kind of works automatically. It must be staying in some sort of a liquid, viscous form while it's in the tire, ready to go when something, punctures it or whatever it may be. That is just spectacular.
It is.
Seems like a lot of customers, though, are really concerned about their roof, and rightly so. They heard this, they heard that. And does Brown & Brown have a product that helps folks out if they have a problem with their RV roof?
So, Bernie, that is an awesome question. Brown & Brown partnered with a key roof manufacturer back about 3 years ago. I'll never forget, I got the phone call from now a dear friend, and he said, hey, we make a lot of roofs in this industry, a lot of rubber roofs at least. And he said, our coverage isn't that exciting. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, let me ask you, when's the last time you heard of a roof cover from the manufacturer? And I had to scratch my head. I said, I haven't. He said, that's our point. And he said, listen, we cover the rubber material that we make. We don't cover caulk. We don't cover glue. We don't cover dry rot. The stuff that goes wrong with the roof, the manufacturer doesn't cover.
Usually not the roof skin. Yeah.
No, it's never the skin. It's every time they cut a hole in it, that's when you get a leak. And he said, listen, can we build a policy with Brown & Brown that would be willing to cover all the things the manufacturer doesn't? So we introed back now just about 3 years ago at Hershey. It was our big intro at Hershey. We had a test dealer that we tried this on. And we offered RV roof protection. It was the first of its kind. It still is in the market today, of the first of its kind. And
Yeah.
some people have called us a little loco for this, and I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
listen, we decided we were going to cover the caulk, the die core, whatever manufacturer, that is making it. But if that is to dry out and it cracks, we're going to pay to have it scraped off and replaced. And that's a big deal because most people used to call that maintenance. Most people called it a leak. Leak's not a bad word on your policy. The second part, we said anywhere you cut a hole in the roof and you seal it, that's us. So roof vents, the stacks for your toilet flue, any of that becomes us. Then we went one further and we said, listen, a real issue that your insurance doesn't cover is what if you have non-adherence of the caulk on the front of the roof and air gets under it and that thing peels back like a can opener top.
Yep.
We're covering that. We say, listen, if you get a roof tear off, that's us. We're in. And then he went one further and he said, listen, Shawn, it'd be awesome if your policy would cover if the glue lets go and we get bubbles in the roof and that the glue doesn't, stick underneath. Would you cover that? We do. And then he kind of went off the rails on us. And I got to tell you, we stood behind it with him. He said, Shawn, where that roof wraps the corners of the roof, that rubber roof, or even fiberglass, we didn't actually, when we built the policy, it was for rubber originally. We never put the word rubber in the policy. So you know what we did?
Whatever roof material. Yeah.
Any roof material. It could be fiberglass. They still glue those things down. But when it wraps the corners, you get hairline splits, especially when a tree rubs down there or something of that sort.
Yeah.
We're crazy enough. We cover that. So the roof policy, I got to tell you, is the basic fundamental of being an RVer. The first thing that gets beat up by Mother Nature is the roof, right? That's the thing facing the sun. It's the thing facing the sky.
Right.
You are crazy enough to cover everything the manufacturer doesn't. It's one of the, we now look at it as almost an essential for coverage on an RV. If you roll out the door without it, man, I can't think of better coverage to have than start and stop the leak up top before that becomes a problem elsewhere.
Yeah, just make sure I heard this right, Shawn. So if the caulking cracks and say, you're going and you send a tech up there or you go up there for your regular yearly or bi-yearly or tri-yearly inspection and you see cracking in the caulking, can you reiterate what you just said?
I will. I mean, listen, I confuse myself when I say it out loud. I can't believe I'm saying it, but we did it. We say, listen, if the die core, the caulk, whoever manufactures it, a lot of different brands, if that caulk dries out and it gets the cracks in it, it turns colors.
Yeah.
When that happens, that's a claim. We want you to call us. We're going to give you authorization to scrape it off, put brand new die core down and make it pearly white again and seal it. And that's where I'm saying, Bernie, this is not a bad word to say, leak. The policy truly helps prevent leaks. But we do ask one thing of the consumer. We ask them to come see the dealer once a year to have it inspected. And, that's an easy thing. They can do
generous.
that. I think
manufacturers say check it like 3-4 times a year.
That's where I'm going. I was going to say, I think we're the lesser of the evils. And we're saying, hey, just get it done during your winterization. You're going for winterization, look at the roof, notate that it's in good condition. We move on.
And if it isn't, you guys pay to fix it.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. All right. Here's another tough one for you. So as RVs age, both inside and out, they tend to dull, show wear, or even smell a bit if they're not properly maintained. Now, these issues can be caused by tree sap, bugs, too much humidity, maybe even improper cleaning. Are there ways to help prevent these types of aging and wear and tear on your RV?
So there is definitely. Brown & Brown some years ago partnered with an amazing manufacturer of some protection products. Today we offer Diamond Shield. It's a ceramic, amazing exterior coating that actually would help against dulling. It would help against the bird droppings, the big scary one, the black streaks, right? As that roof.
Oh yeah, you got to scrub those darn things down.
You got to go nuts on that. But I want to go one further. The interior is a big deal to us too. And listen, it's a place that you live in that RV nonstop. And some time ago, a dealer principal, specifically a really dear friend of yours and mine, came to me and said, Shawn, the number one issue in our RVs when we take them in on trade is this thing called stink. I said, what do you mean stink? He said, they smell. It just smells like somebody lived in it, their dog, their cats. He said, if you can solve the stink problem, well, man, that would be a huge thing. So we talked to that same company, and they brought to us an amazing product, an antimicrobial product that gets rid of mold, mildew, and bacteria. Basically, anything that's organic in nature that starts to grow to make something smell, it gets rid of, and it's an enzyme. The enzyme lives for years. It works every day of its life to get rid of moisture and issues. And it's EPA certified, is environmentally friendly, doesn't give off any bad smells. And oddly enough, those people that have allergies, that are scared of chemicals, this is water-based. It ultimately helps get rid of dust mites. People with allergies would love it. It's great. It makes it a better environment for them. But most importantly, it makes it not smell. It's huge.
Yeah, that's a big deal with used campers especially, right?
Oh, that's huge. And so we did that. The second thing we did, we put a protectant on all those cloth surfaces, but we actually put a liquefied semi-polymer, big fancy name for a plastic that doesn't dry. Right. And it has UV protectant in it. We stopped them from fading. And people call us today and they say, man, I bought your appearance protection policy and I got a half pink pillow and I got a half red one on the couch. You guys treated it. Can I get coverage for that? Yes, we cover the half pink and red pillow. I mean, that's a fading incident, and that's something we protect against.
So even if they left their shades wide open all year round and it bleached that pillow, you're still covering that. So it's like a UV protection. Now, does it cover it against, say, like a dog hops up on there or anything like that? Is there any kind of protection for that kind of thing?
We have rip, tear, and burn coverage up to 6 inches in a rip, up to a half-inch wide, even if that's a puncture from a dog paw that they put a puncture through the seat. Yes, we will pay for repair of that surface to bring it
burn coverage. You're kidding me.
No, we have burn coverage.
If a hot pole hits one of those chairs inside, I don't know how it got there, but
or the cigarette butt. Yes, either or. We're there for that surface. Now, if you light the whole couch on fire, we want you to dial 911 first and then ultimately get out of the RV. Okay, we're going to call your.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah.
We are there for that, most definitely.
So, I mean, again, Brown & Brown's going way above and beyond on these coverages, on which sounds to me a lot of it could be considered user error or has been in the past.
It is. It follows that gray line between user error, aka mistakes. Okay, we don't cover intentional, so we're not looking for intentional.
Yeah, if someone takes a Bowie knife and starts going at the seat, that's not covered. Obviously.
Yeah, if you're having a bad day, please don't call us about your bad day. But if it is the scenario that things happen, and that's what we like to say, we are there to make sure that your RV experience is going to go well, and that ultimately you're pretty happy with your investment.
So with these houses on wheels, there's other things that can go wrong as well. How about mechanical fails? Like, say a slide motor or an AC, or God forbid, a big refrigerator. Those things can be very pricey if they fail.
So, that's awesome. And one of the things, it's the pinnacle of our coverage offerings at Brown & Brown. We offer a service contract that offers mechanical, electrical, and plumbing coverage on that coach.
Wow.
For different periods of time. But what I like to look at it as, Bernie, I'm going to go a little bit different than the norm. Some people want to list off all the parts that's covered. I try to look at this differently. When I'm talking to these wonderful RVers and they're so excited about their new investment and they have one thought in mind, I ask this question of every one of them. I say, tell me about the dream trip. Tell me about that trip that you're going to go on that you're just so excited. That's why you bought the whole RV. And man, I love hearing the stories about we're going to Yellowstone or we're going to Disney or in these magical trips that they just can't even imagine going on until they bought this RV. The last thing I want is for them to call us and say, I couldn't make the trip because my axle failed. Or I couldn't make the trip because, listen, my husband's diabetic and I had his medication in the fridge and the fridge failed. We had to drop it off at a dealer and we had to fly home. So our mechanical breakdown coverage, one of the big things it does is it gets it into a dealership. It pays for that repair. And by the way, on near 5,200 mechanical systems we cover on an RV today. I mean,
Oh
it
my
is one of the
goodness.
most comprehensive coverages out there. And we even go as far to have something called consequential damage, where it means if a covered component fails, and it also happens to damage a non-covered component, aka your slide out track, it fails and it dips and kind of nicks the floor. We'll buy you the little piece of flooring, which wouldn't be covered. That's structure. It's not something that moves
Right.
with the slide track coverage. So that's the pinnacle of our coverage levels, and we get so excited about it because, man, 5,200 plus, little over, items today on an RV is a big deal. But the most important, it's the lack of anxiety for the person buying it who doesn't know how to repair an RV. I mean, today, we laugh. You got to be a plumber, an electrician, an automotive ASE certified mechanic to work on an RV, right? You got
Oh
to
yeah.
have all those specialties, or our policy is there to make sure it works with every one of them. So we're pretty excited.
A lot of coverages might tell you, like you say, what they do cover, but 5,200, you'd be at it all day just trying to come up with a list, right? Or explaining it off to the customer. But it's probably easier to tell them what isn't covered or whatever.
So that's exactly what we wrote that policy. We literally just made a list. It's called, we term it exclusionary coverage, which doesn't sound very good. I call it comprehensive, but that means we cover everything on the RV except for
these few things.
Yeah, small list of limitations. It's a whole lot easier to tell you what we aren't going to cover versus what we cover.
That's fantastic. When I got my RV last September, I was sitting down with my business manager, Dave, and he said to me, he said, Bernie, you're going to need insurance. Do you want to get a quote from B&B? I'm like, well, I got this other insurance. He said, just let me give you a quote. All right. It was only a couple of minutes later. He comes back from the office with this crazy low number. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did B&B doing these kind of deals for insurance for regular coverage? Like when you're traveling or, if your camper, if something gets struck by lightning or whatever it may be, right? That kind of coverage, like your car coverage. How does B&B come up with these? I can't even tell you the number because it's so darn low. Wouldn't want to be, sued for anything.
So Bernie, I don't want you to give away the secret about low rates to everybody, because there are some rates that aren't the lowest, but I will tell you, we specialize in RV coverage on your point of sale RV coverage.
Right.
Specifically, we go to the market's largest distributors in this market. And a lot of consumers, listen, they're not insurance experts, and they go to their local agent that they've been dealing with for the last 10 million years. And that agent's not an expert on an RV. They barely know how to spell RV, let alone what it is. And, our concern is they'll sell them an endorsement that attaches to their auto policy. And I got to tell you, from being on the insurance side, that scares me to death, because the average person doesn't know what that means. And what it means to us is the only time you have coverage is while you're hooked up to your auto. Well, the magic happens when we get to the campground and we pull that pin on our fifth wheel hitch and we drive away with the auto. What happens? The coverage drives away too. Well, listen, Brown & Brown is proud that we offer RV-specific coverage out there that always follows the RV, so that homeowner never, ever has to have a claim and go back and try to put it against their homeowner's policy because, well, their coverage drove away with the auto. So not only do we strive for those low rates, not only do we strive for the right coverage. That's the next thing. We don't want you to have minimums, Bernie. We want to make sure you're covered properly.
Correct.
And then more importantly, we want to know that the coverage is there all the time, not just when you're hooked up to your auto. So listen, we pride ourselves over at Brown & Brown's insurance division in making sure we offer the customer the right coverage that matches the experience. And sometimes that experience could be a permanent site customer. You know how many people out there are underinsured and or lack of insurance because that policy has an exclusion that says you're a permanent site, you can't attach it to your automobile policy? Well, that's where we ultimately are proficient at this, and we're good at what we do. We ask the questions and we match the right coverage for that person so that we know they have coverage. We want to be there for them, and when things aren't good, not just when things are good.
It's great that, Campers Inn RV has Brown & Brown as a primary source for these products and, all the products, when it comes to insurance, because it is so important for people to realize that, people say, oh yeah, with my business, I just tie it to my truck. It's not a big deal. And it's almost negligible, the cost of it. And I said, well, here's the thing, if when it's parked, struck by lightning, tree hits it, or as it becomes disconnected from the tow vehicle while they're towing it, and the liability ensued, there's a lot of things that wouldn't be covered, right? So
Correct.
it's just really important to have the right kind of coverage and the right kind of instruction on things like that to get the education you need to get the right kind of coverage for the kind of RV and the kind of traveling you're going to do.
Bernie, I'm going to go one further. You didn't even bring up the topic, but most RV policies out there, they don't worry about anything but the RV. And you'll notice on many of our quotes, we have coverage for personal effects. We have coverage for your clothes that are in the RV. We have premises liability. And everybody goes, what's that? Well, that's coverage for the campground you're on. If your RV damages the campground, you got to have coverage for the campsite, not just the RV. So listen, we pride ourselves in this, and we pride ourselves in offering that coverage that is RV specific. But again, Bernie, I'm a smart man. My wife kind of tries to explain some things to me sometimes, and she said, would you go to the online carrier for the specialized coverage for your jewelry? I said, of course I wouldn't. And she goes, well, then you probably shouldn't go to the online carrier when you need specialized coverage for your RV, right? I said, man, you're smart.
Well,
you got to think of it that way.
That's fantastic. She's a wise woman.
Amen.
On the website, in Brown & Brown's own words, with more than 85 years of proven success, Brown & Brown is one of the insurance industry's most powerful, influential leaders. What does that kind of legacy mean to the end user, the consumer, when doing business with your company?
So the first thing you need to know about Brown & Brown is if you ever were to take a walk in our corporate headquarters in Daytona, there's a saying inscribed on the wall, and it says, a forever company. And that's a very big deal to us here at Brown & Brown. We are not here to increase profits to be sold next year. We are not here to, be a one and done, as we like to call it. Our goal is a forever company. So what does that mean to us here at Brown & Brown? Well, that's a culture. And the culture is we want to always do the right thing by the end user. Okay. And sometimes that costs you money to do the right thing. But if we tell you we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And that's important to us. And listen, today, if you talk to our wholesale side, our administration side that backs these policies, and you go out and you Google Brown & Brown Dealer Services, we are proud, as the day is long, that 84 pages in on Google, there's nothing bad there. It's us. It's great information. It's customers actually have positive attributes. Why? Because number one, we pay our claims. Number two, we stretch to do better by the consumer. And then three, we're always trying to do the right thing so that the dealer has the backing of Brown & Brown and that the dealer can come out on top. And that's important to us, that the dealer gets that ability to say, we did the right thing by you, we took care of you, and we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We were going to make a great RV experience and a great RV lifestyle for you. So we're excited by that here at Brown & Brown. We love being a forever company, and we love culturally trying to do the right thing by our customers at any time we get the chance.
Well, I'm really excited that I had you here on RV Game Changer. I hope people really learn and maybe take notes during this episode, because there's so much to learn. And you can find Shawn and his crew at bbrown.com. Shawn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Bernie, I appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. And if you want to find the latest episode of RV Game Changer, make sure you go to rvtoday.tv, where you find our latest episode along with a lot of great information, tips and tricks, and videos of RVing Today TV. If you want to get a hold of me, go to RV Game Changer on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and make sure to subscribe. Have a wonderful week, and God bless.